Welcome back to the Ruck and Maul Podcast. On this week's episode, Jonah Nareki rips the Chiefs apart. Could Nalango be a go for England? Simmons sizzles and Smith continues to dazzle, but yet Eddie still doesn't pick up the phone. Plus, what the hell happened to Saracens? Lads, how are we doing, first of all?
Good, thanks.
Ready to dissect the world of rugby?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Well, the bits
Come on, let's start with Saracens then.
What have you seen of the game?
I've seen nothing. I can't find any highlights.
No, neither can I.
No, I've played on that pitch though. Great pitch.
Okay, so you have the most insight of all of us.
That's all I can say. That's all I can say. It was great. It was great. Under 16s tour to Cornwall, I think it was. Fantastic. Our prop did a conversion in the final minute. It's great.
God, I love that. The Saracens put out a really strong team that had about 6 internationals in it. One World Cup winner. And obviously Jackson Ray as well, who's played in every big game Saracens have had for the last 5-6 years. Manu Vunipola, who's regarded as sort of not right at the top level of England's back talent at the moment, but he's certainly competent.
So I just on your point of the team, so it's all these players I recognise apart from Pife Aletti, the hooker.
Isn't he the American or maybe Samoan international? Could be.
But you got Barrington, who's won the European. You've got the American lad Cock, World Cup winner. Hunter Hills had loads of Premiership experience, European experience. Tim Swinson, international. Michael Rhodes, Premiership winner. Raphael, Jackson Ray, Premiership winner. Then you look in the back line, Davis, capped by Wales. Manu Vunipola, Sean Maitland, British and Irish Lions, Sean Maitland. Cecino, Argentinian. Taylor, Scottish. Alex Lewington, England Saxon, Premiership winner.
Lewington.
And former, had been in the Championship prior with London Irish. And then Obi Otoibo, whatever his name is, Otoibo, can't pronounce it. But again, he has played this. And I looking at this Cornish Pirates team, and due respect, I recognise no names from surnames.
No, not even it's not even anybody who's played Premiership recently and dropped down. So Pifaletti, by the way, born in Tonga, went to Haileybury, and 3 caps for the USA. So
they've got, well, yeah. I mean, I'm not going to count that. And then you've obviously got Kapoko on the left, Whiteley, Morris, Segan, Crean, Clary as well. These guys are all experienced enough. I'm not going to pat the panic button.
Played at the World Cup for Fiji.
Yeah. And I'm not going to hit the panic button and go, oh, Saracens aren't going to get promoted, because realistically, they probably will. This might be a thing, but it's not a great start though. If you look at the teams, Worcester, Newcastle, Irish that have been down, yes, they have lost games. London Irish lost at Cornish Pirates when they were in the Championship, but they'd already won 7 games prior to that. It's not a good start for Saracens, is it?
No, frankly.
No, I'm really sad about it.
I'm not, for the record, I'm not sad at all. I think it would be absolutely hilarious because this season being so short, I think each team only plays 10 fixtures. If you lose 2 of them, that's very high risk that you won't make the playoffs.
I've just seen the Ealing result as well.
How did they do?
They won 52-3.
Yeah, it's 52-3
against Nottingham.
Oh, to be fair, Nottingham and that one team.
That Nottingham team, again, with all due respect, don't recognise any of their players, but I recognise quite a few from Ealing, obviously. But yeah, one to watch, Saracens. I mean, we can't really comment on the game because didn't really see it. It seemed like it was a back and forth game. Ealing were ahead of Saracens. Were ahead a few times, but Cornish Pirates kept digging in. Great result, probably the best result, biggest result. I reckon that's the biggest result in Championship history.
Yeah,
certainly the biggest shock anyway.
So otherwise, I mean, it's not quite South Africa, Japan, but a team with this many internationals against a team with part-timers that's quite a big deal, particularly in rugby where we talk about it being the gap between the top level and the level below that being very, very big, much bigger than football, for example.
Yeah.
It's quite embarrassing.
I mean, once Saracens have all their internationals back and they field all of them in the team, that'll probably be the best team to ever be fielded in a championship game, I would think.
Yeah.
I think
once they're all back, like the 5 they've got missing, yeah.
It'll have to happen now because
it'll be nuts
to lose another game.
Yeah. Because again, that's what I was to say. If they obviously the Ealing, they've lost both games to Ealing. Yes, they've it's not like they've come in on losses. They beat Doncaster as well in a warm-up game, but this Ealing team at the moment doesn't seem like they're going to lose because Ealing have had they built up. They played Newcastle in between when the COVID last season was finished, so they've had games. But the other Championship sides haven't played at all. Or they might have had a knock, literally any standard of rugby has been very low. It's a great achievement for Cornish Pirates, absolutely massive, tip the cap. But yeah, massive pressure on Saracens now to win every game. And I was reading an article about that McCord put out that the England lads are going to play at least 4 games. They're going to need them as much as they can at the moment because they have to win every game, as you say, and they've got to beat Ealing and they go to the playoff. And if those England lads aren't in that playoff game, it could go either way, really. Anyway, it makes the Championship very exciting, which is good because obviously there's no relegation in the Premiership, which means we need a bit of to look forward to.
Yeah. Well, also I just can't wait for the legal fight over what happens if Saracens don't win the promotion because they have to.
Keep them down.
In the nicest possible way.
Keep them down.
Ealing aren't ready and Saracens have to come up. So what is going to happen?
Keep them down. We've got 12 teams already. We don't need any more. Keep them down.
Well,
come on. I want Jamie George. I want London Irish sign Jamie George.
Well, yeah, some more of those 1-year loans.
I want to pick up
some more retirees is what you need.
Yeah, we could do with. Oh God, who could we do with? Who's old in that Saracens team? I don't know.
Who knows?
Maitland.
One thing just to temper the excitement.
Yeah.
Like Cornish Pirates are probably the 3rd best team in the league.
Yeah.
After Saracens and Ealing, and it was 3 tries to 3, and the difference was the Pirates' kicker Scully got 2 conversions and 2 penalties, whereas Vunipola only managed one conversion. So
they all count.
Yeah, well, no, obviously that's how you win.
Margins.
You score more points, but it's not like, given that none of us have seen the game, it's not like Saracens sort of scraped to their 17 points. It was just a case of Vunipola's not very good at kicking it, which I think we kind of knew already. He's the Premiership games he played, his kicking wasn't great.
He's not on this personally. From what I've seen of him, he's a good prospect. I don't think at the moment he's not Marcus Smith, Joe Simmons, Umunga level. I don't think he's. I I don't think he's an international fly half anyway. Or
like we talked about last week, he's a sort of perfectly fine second choice, not as good as some teams have as their second choice. Probably not the worst, but closer to the bottom end of that spectrum than the top end, I would say.
Still very young. Still got ages to
very
develop.
young. Yeah, I think he still qualifies the under-20s. He's very young.
Right, let's do some Premiership. Start on Friday night. We'll get to Sonnybill Beginty in a minute. But Leicester, London Irish. Leicester got a win, 33-32. And if you watch the game, Irish conceded 20-odd penalties and still managed to come away with 2 points, and we managed to go up the league. And we got a red card, and we got a try disallowed, and we missed 5 points at goal. Oh, man. It was, I mean, I did think back at the time, I was like, I'm annoyed because we should have won, because we'll come on to the incident in a moment, but we left 5 points out there. But actually, we weren't good enough for 60 minutes to deserve that win. We scored after 30 seconds. That's the second try of the year where we've scored a try under 30 seconds, which is hugely impressive to start off with. But, I mean, Leicester, go on.
Do you think that game though epitomises everyone outside maybe the top three can't find consistent form for like this entire season? No team apart from the top few, and even then, like Exeter lost 3 in a row until they beat Bath at the weekend. That even that middle bunch, it's very hit and miss all season.
Yeah, 100%.
Some teams streaks are longer than others, but basically, yeah.
I 100% agree with that. I'd just say with the Irish that something that I've noticed that we would have crumbled 2 years ago. We lose a player. Same with Bristol. Back to the Bristol game when we got that back in the game. We would have crumbled there, but actually we dug at it. That game finished on 85 minutes. We played 5 minutes after the final like the 80. Paddy Jackson turns down 3 points to get the Louis bonus point. We back our line out. Matt Cornish goes over to get us. Not only did we get 2 points and go up the league, but we also stopped Leicester getting a bonus point with 14 men, which is hugely impressive. Our discipline was terrible. Wayne Barnes really should have probably given out more yellow cards. It was so frustrating watching. I think, but for me, the point that I'll make throughout is you've got to have a bench. And I think we were talking loose in the chat. The point of having a 23 is you've got to make the most of it. And Irish actually might be better. So our bench, for example, was Chungamunga, fantastic young second row, going to be the future, could be England quality, very, very good. Ben Donnell, again, a very exciting back row player. And George Knott, who's is a solid second row, right? But when we start Maffey and Simmons, if you take one of those off, which we took Simmons, and Maffey just, again, was unbelievable again. Unbelievable. By far the best second row potentially in the league at the moment. We'll argue that later on. With Skinner played pretty well for Exeter. But my point is that you actually might be better off starting these guys. Like Crevy played against Wasps, or in Bristol, for example, came on with 25 minutes to go, changed the game. You start Phibbs on the bench, you bring him on at half time, for example, when you're in the game. You might be ahead, you might be slightly behind. You change the game while you're tiring against the defence. Leicester's bench was still very young, but they could brought on Munimuravalu, who was absolutely brilliant. That try he scored was absolutely fantastic. Koes van Dijk's try was brilliant, coming in on the angle. Leicester attacked well with Zach Henry. I thought Zach Henry was absolutely fantastic. He's getting better and better. Generally, very, very good fly half. Still, there's areas of his game which is workout, but he was very good. And Irish got an injury to Tom Part, which didn't help. But the Hepatima red card is ugly. It's probably the worst one of the season. It's not nice.
Yeah, I've just got highlights on a second screen. But yeah, Johnny,
it's vicious, that red card.
Okay.
Yeah,
I would say it's not like the ones recently where I don't know. Yeah, it was silly. He wanted to go in and make a big hit, and like, there's no excuse for his red card.
Just seeing it now,
it's not nice. And there's no, and we're not these type of people that's going to bag Terence Hebertimer like and say that he's a shit bloke and anything like that. Like, these
no,
things happen, and we're not going to do that. Other people do that, and Alex Payne, I took my hat off to Alex Payne on the podcast, The Good, the Bad, and the Rugby with Dan Carter. Which, if you haven't actually seen it, go and listen to that. It's absolutely fantastic about Dan Carter. But they talk about the start about online abuse and all that stuff. We're not like that at all. We're not.
no.
But he'll look back at that and go. And he, to be fair to him, he came out on social media on Saturday, made a post, really apologised to Cobus Van Wyk. Straight away, Van Wyk patted him on the head as he went past against HIA. Like, it's rugby, but that is not good. And I think that stemmed from the fact that he gave away a try 5 minutes earlier, where he just stupidly turned his body in and created a space where there didn't need to be. Like, Bear Cowan was going to put the ball in for Loader to run in. It just was unnecessary, and that obviously frustration. He wants to get us back in the game, but you can't be driving your shoulder in there. So yeah, I don't know how long he'll be out for. It's not going to be great for us because we need a 12. That's a position that we are really lacking at the moment. Realistically, if Brophy Clues is fit, we'll probably play him. The only other one after that that's fit is Phil Cockanasanger, who is the future, but he's 19, and you don't play a 19-year-old really at 12.
No, you let him come to Bath and mature.
Yeah, well, I was going to say about Bath, Will Joseph is going to probably end up at Bath for the next few years. But he looks good. He's got absolute pure pace. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot more of him. I hope Parton's not injured, but that might give Joseph some more time. But yeah, that's me from point of view from Irish and Leicester. Yeah, as you say, going to your consistency point, Irish are a good side because they didn't give up. That's the difference, where at another time might have crumbled. So that's positive. But you're going to have, realistically, if you're not Exeter, Bristol, and maybe Sale, Quins are a little bit in that. They're probably going to get top 4 at the moment. They look good. We'll talk about them in a minute. But yeah, the rest of us, I mean, look at Worcester. We'll talk about Worcester later, but Worcester nearly beat top of the league and they're bottom now. Yeah, it's going to be, you win one, lose one, win one, draw, whatever. But it's going to be an exciting time.
Yeah. No, I think it's almost impossible to say whether the relegation thing has freed the clubs up. Obviously, it was the theory that a lot of people had, but whatever the cause is, the Premiership is pretty mad at the moment. Almost anybody can beat anybody else, and every game is pretty exciting to watch. Good tries being scored all the time. The weather was quite good this weekend, reasonably dry, not too hot, so people aren't getting tired. Still relatively early in the season, kind of perfect rugby conditions at this time of year. So yeah, it's good. That's good, at least. Briefly on the red card, the Hebertimer red card, the players are coached for the second man in to, first man in the tackle gets the legs, second man in the tackle aims for the ball and turns, stopping the player into a dominant hit. But as we've seen a couple of times over the last few weeks, very frequently the first tackler has not gone low and the second tackler doesn't react to that, continues to go high. And it's that, we'll talk about it let's do it now. I don't know what your order is planned to be, Johnny, but the Thorley red card, it's but the root cause is exactly the same thing. That when you make that upright tackle, the thing that they're really trying to avoid is that head being in the same airspace. That's the most dangerous situation. So whether Hebertimer had hit him with his shoulder or his head, like was going to hit them with whoever the Leicester player was.
It was Van Beek, Cobus Van Beek.
Van Beek. It was going to hit him with something high up. So I think every single rugby player, we just need to get better at that motion you're doing driving into the tackle is all well and good, but like Hepatima was crouching and then drove into the tackle.
He throws his shoulder at him like it's the worst.
That would have been absolutely fine if the angle had been like that, and he had just hit him in the chest or the sort of abdomen. But instead, his body angle was higher than that, probably to try to stop the offload. But as you're coached, but Jackson was already there, so he continues that driving up and hits him in the face. So, but like I did see a brief conversation about this. The red cards aren't working as a deterrent, and the suspensions aren't working as a deterrent. It still happens. At least there's one a weekend.
Well, it was two again, didn't we?
Well, yeah, exactly. But there's sort of on average at least one a weekend. And you wonder whether we're going to have to do something else. But because and you hear about Nick Easter talking about the breakdown that penalties and cards are just like getting speeding fines. But like, don't get speeding fines. That's a bad thing. You should be avoiding getting speeding fines. And B, like, that's really bad. If that's how players and coaches are thinking about the high tackle and these various rules for safety now, if that's how they're thinking about it, then we need
that defeats the whole
try again
objective of it. Yeah.
If you think a red card is just an occupational hazard of getting dominant tackles in, then you will just continue to do it and not change your behaviour.
Yeah, and I think the thing is that it's not working yet. But the thing is, they're professional rugby players, so they should, as much as like everyone's like, oh, they're suddenly giving out red cards. As I can't remember which game it was in the commentary I was listening to, these rules about high tackles and stuff, yes, they're enforcing them more now, but the actual rule about any hits to the head and cards and stuff has been around since 2017. It's not anything like brand new. They're just enforcing it suddenly a lot more, which I can't really bash because it's the rules, and actually they're trying to reduce head injuries. And I know there's this big court case, so they've got to be seen to be doing something. But I think again, like you said, it comes down to coaching. And actually, a lot of these players have been tackling the same way since they were probably kids when they were in their academies, and they suddenly got taught to smash them, stop them getting the offload, slow them down. And the game today is so much about defence, especially compared to especially compared to 20 years ago. Not that it wasn't about defence 20, but it's such it's so tight defence, and there's such big players nowadays compared to 20 years ago. They're even bigger now, and like it's such a game that's dominated around defence. The best defence wins, and it's all about aggression. And until you can take that bit, or somehow, I think, stop that a bit, it's gonna be a while before you see any big changes. I still think there'll be red cards for the rest of this season.
There was an interesting one in the Irish Leicester game with Matt Roderson about 10 minutes in, where Thomas Lavanini, I think it's Rafael actually, carried Legrand into contact, but Thomas Lavanini literally shoves Rafael into Matt Roderson, pushes him into him, so he falls, and because Roderson's expecting him to hit him here because he's upright, but because the last minute, you've got Thomas Lavanini being an idiot, pushing his own teammate into his head. Like that, and Wayne Barnes, that's where you get it from, is Wayne Barnes goes, well, clearly we've seen this, boom, 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 take it down to a yellow card, because it's a yellow card, but it's an accidental thing. I just think they did the whole thing 2-3 years ago about the shots in the air when we were getting people taken out in the air, and that was a straight red. That's that thing. We're going to have a few more to get better. And actually, I was going to say, we had 2 at the weekend. We had 2 red cards at the weekend. We had a couple of yellows, but not for high tackles or anything. But out of the 6 games, only 2 reds. One was a high tackle. The Thorley one was a bit dangerous, but
I mean, the Thorley one would have been a red probably
any time
5 years ago.
I'm not sure actually. That kind of head-on-head, both players have come off badly out of this. They weren't really dealt with like that. That was a quote-unquote rugby incident, but nowadays that's recognised as the absolutely most dangerous thing. I think the stats for those head-on-head impacts it's 6 times more likely to be a concussion, so a serious brain injury, than a shoulder-on-head tackle. Obviously, 3 times more likely for the person receiving it, and also the tackler is very likely as well. So it's that is like, if we could get rid of every one like sort of type of incident, it's that sort of forehead on forehead, head on head impact. That would be the ideal, but not.
I mean,
it's working.
From a selfish point of view, I'm glad I am not sitting in the background and the game gets ruined by a red card, because if there's a time to start enforcing it and sorting it out, not from a non-medical point of view, do it now. Well, it's probably a good time to actually bring in any kind of changes you want to do.
Now you say that, I think like this is reasonably controversial, but I think it quite strongly. I think a red card, one of the reasons why we're getting the whole Nick Easter, etc., occupational hazard viewpoint, is that a red card does not ruin a game. Like, look how well Gloucester
true
after the red card. 14 on 15 is not a terrible disadvantage these days.
Not if you set your defence up properly.
Exactly, it's basically there's a small difference in the sort of back line, but fundamentally teams are dealing with it really, really well.
Just like having, I mean, England, when they've had Daly at fullback, 14 men.
Yeah, well, exactly. But in all seriousness, England won a game against Argentina where Daly got sent off in the first minute, and they won the game. So it's, even at international level, it's doable. And that's actually why I think quite strongly that this plan that they're trialing in Aotearoa, where a red card is 20 minutes and you bring on a replacement at the end of the 20 minutes, that's a terrible idea, because genuinely, what's the point? Because like, teams can already time waste through a sin bin. 20 minutes is not much longer than that. And if anything, that ruins the game, because the team is incentivized or feels like it's incentivized to waste 20 minutes of everybody's time by just picking and going and playing slow rugby until they can get there.
Which they'll hate in New Zealand.
Well, yeah, but it remains to be seen if that'll actually happen. But up here, you can imagine it would. It definitely happens for yellow cards.
Oh, yeah.
Like scrum resets that take 4 minutes. Happens all the time. But we shall see.
Definitely.
We should try to avoid red cards every week.
Well, I was going to say, the interesting thing you talked about Super Rugby was that we saw a lovely piece of skill from AJ McGinty, which, if that happens in Super Rugby, that just happens anyway. But everyone was like, "Oh my God, it's absolutely genius." I mean, when you guys were like, you need to go and see the trial, I was like, "I'll go and check those out." Don't get me wrong, it's an amazing piece of skill. But if that's in Super Rugby Aotearoa, the ball's coming out a little bit nicer. It's not as clunky as it looks. That's just as far as the level of the skill is. But take no bones away, it's an amazing skill, brilliant setup, great try,
and I think
Sale win the game.
Great step from Lude.
Yeah,
you don't see many locks moving like that who are 6'8" or whatever he is. But yeah, AJ's been done, and he's kicking well now, which is also helping. He had a good game, actually. He's very good.
Yeah, no, he's just a really good player. Sort of lucky for the world game that he's American, as we've sort of seen. Every so often you get a player stuck not playing as much international rugby as they ought to, not the world not getting the benefit of them as much as we ought to. So, and Marcus Smith, for example.
We'll talk about Smith in a minute.
Exactly. So it's great that McGinty can be productive both at a top level club and also a pretty top level international team. I think he'll still be young enough for the next World Cup, won't he?
Definitely, I definitely think they should.
Well, yeah, it's only 2 years away.
Probably.
Yeah,
great. They sail for me. They look so much better when he's in the side with Faf as well. Like
with Faf.
If they are going to compete and be in that, they'll be a top 4 team. I think they've got too much of a good enough squad for that. 1990 is the birth of AJ. So yeah, he's not that old, is he? 29. My maths is terrible. Was he 99?
30.
33. He's 1990.
So he's currently 31.
Okay.
31.
Good maths.
He'll be 33 at next World Cup.
But perfectly doable. I mean, Dan Carr's just retired at 38, so he's got loads of time left. And he won't be playing that much attritional international rugby between then anyway, for the USA anyway. So he's probably got 2, 3 years maybe in the Premiership, and then he'll take a contract with the LA Guiltinis, and that would be great.
Yeah, probably a good time.
That's exactly what I'd be doing at the moment.
Yeah.
That's a good pod idea, actually. We should do a comparison time of which way you should go, either the top 14 or the top league or the MLR. But we'll say that for another day. Let's batter through 2 games so we can get on to Bath, Exeter, and then Quins, Northampton, because they're a bit more. I saw those. Worcester, Bristol, I've only seen the highlights of this, but Worcester seemed in it. Bristol's 3rd team with Callum Sheedy and Nalango in it, with Luatur at the back. Kept in it, but Nalango got a hat trick, didn't he? Is that right? And dug them out of a hole. And they still got a bonus point.
Yeah, no, I think this is sort of the game that when you see the teams' names, that's sort of the game that you expect. Worcester like playing basically as well as they can, but then Bristol's individual talent, when, like you say, when Sheedy came on, very difficult to deal with, and Nalango is really, really special. And I know you said he could play for England. I'd much rather he played for Fiji and got 30 caps. Not that they're short years, but why not?
He's incredible, isn't he? He's incredible.
I mean, he's not like outrageously good. He's just very fast.
He's just fast. I mean, I'd love to see him and Tyrone Green in a race.
Yeah.
He's just... Yeah. So he's only... he's 30.
Yeah.
So Fiji must pick him for something. But then if he's Fijian, then he's probably actually 50. But
Johnny, that's not fair.
No, jokes. But if he was 50, I mean, that's impressive. If he was actually 50, wasn't he? Do you imagine?
That would be incredible. Sorry, the highlights have kept playing on my other screen, and I've just seen the McConaughey try.
Oh! Hey, what a thing of beauty.
We'll get back to that in a sec. Bristol are really good. Luatur is really fun. I love the dummy when he's out on the wing.
Yeah,
the dummy kick. He sort of takes the ball into one hand. It's fantastic. It always works. Every single time he does it.
Just a note on Worcester, as I was going to say, that they look like they're going to be probably in that. I expect them probably to finish bottom this year. Not by playing badly. I think it's going to be very, very tight, but they are just building to next year. They're waiting for their players that they're looking at. Obviously, we talked about Chudley's coming in, Willie Hines is coming in, Duane van der Merwe is coming in. They've just signed Scott Baldwin from Quins at hooker, which I think is a brilliant signing. I think Quins on quite
Christian Judge from Bath.
Yeah. Oh, Chris, he can't scrum, lad.
Not quite the same level. Good player, but not.
Yeah, he's Worcester level, probably Worcester level, which is probably not the best signing for Worcester because they need better, not Worcester level players. They need Duane van der Merwe signings, but I wonder if they splashed all their cash on him.
Yeah,
I think what they really need is Donegal O'Callaghan, but 15 years younger. That's take them to the next level. There's never been a team that wasn't improved by getting an international second row, as we've seen with Irish, getting 2. Well, 3 really, with Steve Maffey now fit.
Oh, Steve Maffey. Stop talking about Steve Maffey. I've got a bit of a crush.
But it's nice to see the team bottom of the league playing top of the league and being a highly competitive game.
That's all I can say.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I was shocked when you said that you thought Worcester were likely to finish bottom, because I haven't looked at the league table for a while because it's basically irrelevant.
Well, they are with Gloucester winning. They are a little bit not cut adrift, but
yeah. So I've got it up here now. We'll run through. So Bristol 46 points, Exeter 40, Quins 38, Sale 36, Northampton 31, Irish 31, Newcastle.
And then it bunches up.
It really bunches up. Leicester 28, Wasps 26, Bath 24, Gloucester 19, Worcester 16. But from every Worcester game I've watched, obviously they haven't really been winning and their points difference is quite ugly, but they look good every time you see them play. They score a lot of tries.
They're usually in it for the first 60, and then they basically lose it in the last 20.
It comes down to, again, a couple of things that I've noticed is the bench, again, which I've talked about, and they aren't clinical in the 22. Like there's a time where they were playing Wasps 2 weeks ago now, I think.
When Atkinson was playing 10.
Yeah, and it was just hammer, 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 nothing happening. Right, we'll go the other way. Hammer, 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 hammer. So yeah, they're a little bit more. They rely on a bit of counter-attacking Nick David to sort of do a bit of magic sort of thing. And actually that Ollie Morris in the 13 with the top knot's good. He's signed a new deal, which is exciting. As I say, Worcester aren't a bad team. I'm a little bit worried of Irish playing the next Sunday because we did lose them earlier in the year, admittedly by a point, and it was the first time out. And we've got a lot better since then, and we're at home. But it's not a foregone conclusion, that result, anyway.
Yeah, no, I think I would say it's really sort of, as you say, that when you're in 22, the issue they have is they haven't got a great deal of carrying talent in their tight 5. They're perfectly fine scrummagers, perfectly fine in the line out, but no player that you look to and give him the ball, he'll get over the line. And they don't even really have that in the back row.
They've got Kovacic, Hill, and Corner de Priya really are their main carriers.
Obviously, de Priya is quite good, but
he's going.
Yeah.
Do you think that obviously he's the only one they're missing, really? But do you think they miss Ollie Lawrence a lot?
Yeah, but again, not quite the same. In the same way that he doesn't really do that.
But with Ollie Lawrence, I think he's definitely the future in England 12 and 13. But it's not like he's not a. I don't know, I'm trying to think of an example. He's not like a Peter Munga Jensen type player or a Lau Mape where you know that every time he has the ball, something's going to happen. And it's going to be like, or a bit more close to home, Andre Usatezen, who's probably a bit of equivalent because he's the same size. You know that you're going to give Andre Usatezen the ball, he's going to do something with it each time. And Ollie Lawrence is a fantastic, fantastic player. But he's not. And I do think he should be playing for England, but he's not got that.
Very, very different type of player. I mean, Esterhazen's probably got 15 kilos on Lawrence.
I mean, Oosthuizen played in the spat row because of the amount of yellow cards Quinton's had, and he fitted in like a glove.
He could play in the second row if his hands weren't so good.
Quick one on Wasps, Gloucester, unless you have anything else. The only thing I want to say was, what a line by Tumunga Allen. And that was a pass back inside to Rob Miller. That was beautiful.
Yeah.
And it was casual. He just chucked it.
I think we're going to see a lot of that when club rugby comes back. There have been a lot of people who haven't played for a year and all they've watched is Super Rugby and no relegation Premiership. And there's going to be a lot of optimism. Talent levels.
A lot of optimism and a lot of bad fitness, probably.
I mean, I'll have you know that Beaconsfield Rugby Club is about as fit as it's ever been. That's not, obviously that doesn't reflect very well on us, but we've done so much. But yeah, ball handling is going to be out of fashion. I think it's going to be just chuck it.
Has it ever been in fashion with you, Harry?
Yeah.
I'm a fool. It's generally not my job. But
No.
I can't wait for the Samsung grassroots try of the year when you've made a 50-meter break, just handed someone off and then offloaded it round your back like Quade Cooper, and then the guy's tripped over the line. You've made the support line and you get the offload off the floor. That's what I'm expecting from you this year.
My favourite is going to be the just sort of running left and just completely blind, chuck it over your shoulder. Just hope that there's somebody there. Seriously, can't wait. 3 weeks back in trade.
Gloucester on the up.
Yeah, Chris Harris is very good.
He's made a difference being back for them. Obviously, he'll go back up to Scotland now, I think, won't he? But
yep. Obviously no shortage of outside backs. Ollie Thorley very kindly getting himself sent off, so the selection issue is no longer there. Although could have timed it slightly better for a week when Reece Samet wouldn't be away as well. And obviously. Who else have they got? Obviously Carreras. Is Woodward fit?
No, he's injured. They've got the young lad. Oh, bum. Oh, it's gone now from my memory. It's not Slight Home.
He's Northampton.
No, because it's not Slight Home. It's who is it? It's Seabrook. Tom Seabrook is their other one, and Charlie Sharple's on the bench. So Charlie Sharple is still there. Should we move on to Bath or anything else?
Yeah. No.
Well, Bath Exeter. I mean, Bath looked very good attackingly for a little bit. We'll come back to you in a moment, Johnny. But just to quickly say, in the grand scheme of things, Sam Skinner's been called up to Scotland. I thought it was absolutely brilliant in the second row with Johnny Gray. I mean, they wouldn't go too far wrong with picking those two at the weekend.
No.
So, Gregor, if you want some advice, maybe do that. And while we're on advice, and Lawrence Dallaglio almost lost it a little bit when Simmons scored his try and was like, how can you not pick him? But Jesus Christ, I cannot wait for the moment, right, when it's going to be this summer, when the Lions tour is announced and Warren Gatlin goes, because there'll be in alphabetical order, he'll go Sam Simmons and Marcus Smith.
God, that would be
especially
good.
Sam Simmons. He's going to pick Sam Simmons, and I can't wait because the back row is going to be Simmons, Tipperick, and Faletau at this rate. Faletau at 6.
In all seriousness, I would have Navidi over Tipperick or Faletau. If you're gonna have Simmons, you have to have Navidi.
Yeah.
And then one of the other two.
Yeah, I think Navidi would go so well against South Africa as well. I think if you're picking, I mean, you can pick people on form, but you've also got to pick a team that's going to beat South Africa.
He is also on form.
Yeah, and he's on form. I think he would be very good. I think Faletau would be. I think Simmons would offer something different, surprisingly, like he offers something different to Billy. But
with Sam Simmons,
we won't go over that again. But it would be nice to see. And CJ Stander, people would keep on talking about him. He's probably the one core of Ireland that puts a shift in every week.
Like, seriously, if you pick Stander, then it almost makes sense to pick Vunipola as if you're going to have the 8, not starting together, not even in the same 23, but if you're playing the system where you have the number 8 like that, then Stander is that 8, and then Vunipola is the alternative, because there's not really anybody else in the UK who can do the job that those two do. That's super, super heavy in tight carrying. Nobody else does it. Maybe like Carl Sinclair, and that's kind of it. Keane Healy as well, but obviously not number 8. It's very difficult picking back rows because everybody likes it done differently.
And often the back rows always stand out on the pitch. So Hamish Butchon always stands out because they're everywhere. So back rows could... Like...
The Simmons thing for me is when he gets off the I can't remember if it's the Skinner's second trial, the Johnny Gray try, but when he breaks off the scrum and he goes blind and he's just covered like 20 meters in about 1 second, you're like, how the hell has he done that?
He's past Mercer before Mercer is unbound.
It's ridiculous, and I'm just thinking, I don't know. We'll see this week if he calls him up, but.
Like, very seriously, a lot of the things that Simmons does and the way that Simmons scores his tries, if you pick Nalango at 8 for Exeter, he would also score all of those tries and would definitely not be a very good number 8 at international level. So there's definitely an element of that. Obviously, Simmons is a lot bigger than Nalango and can do the in-tight stuff. But there is obviously very genuinely an element where that whole Exeter back row and even back sort of pack and even centres, because how on earth can you play Ian Whitten in the Premiership still with the amount of attacking potential that he has? Is genuinely the whole open field play is carried by the fact that Sam Simmons does all of that carrying. So like genuinely Sam Simmons and 14 other guys, or a team. Almost, not quite, but almost. So it's, I love this conversation, and also it's so circular because when Eddie Jones is just never going to pick it, and we're never going to see what happens.
Do you know what it reminded me about though, which I completely forgot? There was another number 8 not so long ago at Exeter who was top try scorer in the Premiership. Thomas the Tank. Imagine, like, not that far apart, 2 8s who scored loads of tries.
Yes.
It's like, actually, he plays in that Exeter team, like you say. Like, there's always going to probably be a back. They score a lot of tries through their forwards, 5 yards from the line. And often, whoever's going to be your top carrier is probably going to get a lot of tries.
And also, very specifically, those two. At most other teams, the hooker is the one who ends up with the ball at the back of a line-out drive. But at Exeter, it's been Wardle and Simmons. So that's why the try numbers is not very useful, because that's really quite inflated. Obviously, it's a talent, etc. You've got to be good at it, but anyone can score with a bit of practice.
But they looked better at the weekend, though, did they not? Especially with their improved bench. Like we say, it's a 23, and they had the best 23 they've had for a while because they had such a good bench. And that's what made the difference. And what was the one from a Bath perspective, I was perfectly happy with that game. Okay, maybe not the last 10 when we conceded loads of tries. And it was very close until the last 20. I mean, I think we were leading with 22 minutes to go or something. And all I'd say was that Bath actually changed their tactic. If you looked before the game, Bath were the team that kicked it away the most out of the season, and just had the least possession of any team that kicked it away, and obviously still had the least amount of territory as well, I think. And Exeter were topping both those stats, and you were basically playing it into Exeter's hands if you played that way. And Bath didn't play that way for the first half. They just were chucking the ball around. It was great to see. So it's good to see that they could change their game plan for Exeter. But the thing is unless you have a 23 to match them, as long as Exeter, and it actually shows the quality of Exeter as a side that, and they were kicking, they had penalties, so many penalties in front of the posts, and Joe Simmons would just tap it into the corner, and you knew at some point that was going to pay off. And they're a patient side, and they are just. We lost to a very good side, I thought, who are current European and Premiership champions. So, I mean, there's loads of people in the Bath forum still calling for Hooper's head, but yeah.
But again, I think I completely agree with you, Johnny. I think, but from a Bath performance anyway, for the first 20 minutes, you looked absolute flames, and actually you had Exeter looked clueless for about 50 minutes. But with Exeter, they just find a way they just back the system. They don't deviate from the plan of we're going to do it this way, and if it doesn't work, okay, fine. But as you say, Simmons kicks the corner. They mucked it up a couple of times. Bang, it goes over. O'Flaherty then scores a lovely try. Really, really nice. I think the McConaughey try for Bath was really, really good. But as I say, when you roll off Yannis Kirsten, who hasn't played a lot of rugby this year, who's just far ready to go, and someone else who hasn't played a lot of rugby this year, who's looking like he might be going to Wasps, which would be a fantastic pickup for Wasps, is Stu Townsend, who I thought brings a lot more than Jack Maunder does. It's going to sound like I'm bashing Jack Maunder. I think he's a great scrum half, but I don't think he's the Exeter first choice scrum half. Because Stu Townsend would probably sit behind Sam Adawu-Klein, but Stu Townsend was superb when he came on. Brought real energy, real buzz, quick ball. I would say Wasps, if that deal goes through anyway, and it is a rumour at this stage, but yeah, Wasps extra good.
Am I right in saying Adawu-Klein is going back to Edinburgh? Did I hear that somewhere?
I don't know.
He's moving on again.
I heard that. But yeah, I have no idea who the best scrum half at Exeter is, because they have 4 and seem to play a different one every week. So
who's their 4th one?
The other Maunder brother.
Oh yeah.
There are 2 of them. Jack and Sam.
The thing is, I don't think their style of play requires like a super good 9. They just play the system. It doesn't. Yeah. It doesn't. You don't. I mean, you don't need an outstanding 9 to play the way that. It's not like you need Faf to chuck 30-meter miss passes. Just play the system. That's why I think Exeter works, and it will carry on working until their academy runs dry, which it probably never will. It will just carry on chugging along.
Yeah, I think I agree.
Final game for the Premiership. Quins 37, Northampton 19. In the end, quite a comfortable victory. 4 tries for Quins, who, bear in mind, had 13 players at one point. It was a bit of nip and tuck to start with. Ollie Slightholme's try. Have you seen that game?
I've seen the highlights.
He's got gas. Slightholme's got absolute gas to burn. Same as Tyrone Green. That Tyrone Green try is freaking ridiculous. Like, he shouldn't be scoring that. Like, Rory Hutchinson looks like he's in treacle, and who's not a slouch. But yeah, unbelievable. Quinn's look good.
One thing I'd like
Brown.
to know is
Brown.
Oh, God.
So good over the ball.
Back and forth.
Dude,
Go on,
I
Harry.
was texting Dad. I was like, where is Daly in the 15 ranked? Because Mike Brown's better than Daly at the moment by a lot.
I have not read any of the articles because it's the Daily Mail, but I've been enjoying the snippet of Mike Brown's weekly column that he's currently doing, because it's very, very clear that he has absolutely no intention of ever playing for England ever again, and like obviously is like knows as much about this England team as anybody could know in the world. Is clearly a reasonably smart guy and knows a lot about how to play rugby, and his criticism of this England team has been, as far as I can tell, quite spot on and healthy. I think rugby is one of those sports that really benefits from current players and also very recently retired players explaining to those of us who are not in the camp what's going on, because it's so much more complicated. It's very hard to diagnose from the outside what teams are trying to do, and also the players are more sort of up for that than they are in football, for example. So it's been enjoying that, and he's playing really well. Funny enough, I thought he was done. Maybe not.
Well, he's playing for a contract. That's what he's doing.
Isn't he? Yeah, isn't he leaving?
Well, he's linked with
Newcastle,
but I don't think that's gone through yet. But also, Quinn's really should be signing him up and getting him on a player contract, player coach, I think.
Yeah. So the question I have with all of those veterans at Quinn's is obviously Paul Gustard is quite well regarded as a coach, and it sort of seems like they forced him out.
Oh, they 100% forced him out.
So it's not, well, no, exactly, I mean, I sort of wanted to qualify it for a bit of plausible deniability, but no. As far as anybody can tell, it's those senior players who...
The committee?
Made the decision. Yeah, exactly.
They are literally a committee.
They practiced with Marlon Yard and then got Gustard out, didn't they?
I mean, not even a joke.
No, that's why it's funny.
So you wonder if they might end up being a bit of an impediment to the club. When Gustard left, I wondered whether that might be an impediment to the club developing, but obviously they've now won all but one game since the coup occurred, and they've still not really they've got Adam Jones and Nick Evans coaching,
Jerry Flannery.
And Jerry Flannery's quite a serious guy. So it's not quite anarchy, but what's going on? Why is this working?
But they've got a unique setup there, though, because they've got a general manager who I've forgotten who his name is, but he's the general manager, so he's the guy that has the picture. But you've got Jerry Flannery, who I think is the line-out coach. Yep. You've got Adam Jones on scrum and forward, Nick Evans on skills and back, and then they've got a few others, haven't they?
I bet you they have great socials. Jerry Flannery and Adam Jones. I imagine they're fantastic.
Let's see who's on it.
I just think with that set, I was saying to this, I was saying this to Dan as well, as a Quinn's fan. I was like, Dan, you don't need a director of rugby at Quinn's, because all the Quinn's players seem to do is revolt anyway, because they did it to John Kingston a while ago. Don't forget about that. They're actually better off, horses for courses, playing ex-Quinn's lads who have played for Quinn's, just running the show like an old boys club, because that's what it is. It's in the middle of flipping Twickenham. They train down at
actually,
it's the old boys club. Just let them do it. So when Kerr and Brown retire, Kerr can be skills coach, Brown can be kicking coach, at the moment it's working. So crack on.
No. No, Brown's job is going to be head of public communications.
Yeah.
That's what he needs to be.
Human resources.
But actually, on that note, it is quite good to see so many young coaches coming through. Borthwick, Hooper, Sanderson. There's lots of, compared to a few years ago, where it was basically a lot of guys who were playing professionally, maybe at the end of their careers in the 90s. There's a lot of good young coaches out there now, which is good to see.
It looks like they don't have a defence coach.
Well,
they're just all attack at the moment.
Gustave would be the defence coach. He was doing the defence.
Yeah.
So the general manager is Billy Millard.
That's it.
Been there since 2018, but I think has taken a bit more responsibility because he's been a head coach of rugby teams like all over the world. Effectively, started at Australian Sevens, things like that. So he's probably not that on-pitch coach as much as the other three are, but
it's just the way it tying everything in together. I do take my hat off to Quint. I like the way they're doing it because, like, you put a lot of faith in Marcus Smith when working with Nick Evans to create the attack. They're putting a lot of Louis, the second row club captain, who's very young, in the second row with Lam Kona, who was with Simmons as well in there, where you've got Marla, who's what we from understand has taken on a more of a leadership role as well. Like, I think they've got their own identity of way they're doing it. It seems to me that you've got a group of players in there that not to say they don't need coaching, they just need facilitating, as it were, that they've got their ideas of how they want to play. Everyone's really on board with it. They didn't enjoy probably Paul Gustard's, like, we all need to be a wolf pack, whatever he called them, or bearing, or whatever he did that was a bit weird and a bit wacky, and made it a bit more about sort of him as an entity as opposed to, I don't know, maybe he peed off the wrong people. Well, he definitely did. But
management speak.
It's something to watch where you don't necessarily might need a deal. Well, it's definitely a unique case study. Something on coaching though, and as I say, I've dabbled in coaching in my time, but I'd like to say something. George Furbank is not a fly half, and I don't particularly know why he's been playing there. I think because obviously Dan Bigger's been away, and I don't know if Grayson's fit. But there seems to be some notion that he's moving to fly half because Eddie Jones thinks he's a fly half, but he isn't. His game plan is running fast and in space. He doesn't do what a 10 should do, as opposed to when you look at Marcus Smith, who brought control and brought anything like that. I just think, yeah.
It's weird, isn't it?
It's a really weird thing because it's a 15 playing at 10. It's no other mate. And you've got Harry Mallender who probably do a better job at fly half. He sat on the bench. Like,
yeah.
If you've got an injury problem, that's fine. James Grayson's injured. Dan Bigger's going to come back. No problem at all. But if you've got Harry Mallender who can legitimately play 10.
I mean, Piers Francis has played 10 for England.
Yeah. Well, I don't think Francis was fit, but he was a late withdrawal because Tom Collins came straight into the team. And then you had Hutchinson kicking the goals.
Yeah.
Which is weird. But he can actually kick, though he missed 2. But Northampton are weird. Because one minute they look like the Hurricanes, and the next minute they look like
Hurricanes.
Yeah, the Hurricanes from 2020 that can't attack.
I think they they're a team that have been in limbo for years. Since they were like quite good a few years ago, they've somehow they were relying on a core of like Hartley, Laws. Who else did they used to have?
Dixon,
Tonga that was a while ago.
Phil Dowson.
When you remember they used to have the team as Tonga, Majati, Manoa. It doesn't compare. Yeah, I don't know. They just don't. they're just not the same team they were a few years ago. And I don't know. I feel like they've been. Bigger was probably a reasonable signing, but he's not quite performed consistently or been around consistently enough for Northampton. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Bigger. I think Bigger's actually quite a good idea for them because he's very reliable. Like if you're going to sign from 10, you can do a lot worse than Dan Bigger. He's around more often than forward is, stuff like that. It's not terrible. I think that the best season they've had recently was the first year of Chris Boyd, and then ever since it's not quite worked for one reason or another. Despite adding to the talent levels, like Matt Proctor and Naira Voro weren't there when they were really good, and now they are, and you'd have thought that would take them to another level, and it's not really worked. Had a lot of talent in the pack come through in that time. Not really showing or sort of turning into results. I think it just sort of is what it is, a bit like Worcester. The Premiership is so strong at the moment. Good teams will lose matches.
I was going to say, I think Quinn's looking more like a top 4 team as the weeks go on. As I just looked at the time, we're sort of running out of time here. A couple of the things to point you in direction of. Before we wrap up, if you haven't seen any Super Rugby Aotearoa and Super Rugby AU, go watch it. The Brumbies nicked it at the death, which looked fantastic. Jonah Nareki absolutely ripped apart the Chiefs, which some of the ridiculous finishes in there were amazing. Cody Taylor looks unstoppable at the moment. As
quick as Dane Coles.
Oh, it looks so good. So go back and watch that. A couple of transfers before we go, well, rumours anyway. Ben Vellagot looking like he's going to go to Edinburgh. I don't know if we mentioned that last week. I think we probably did. Stu Townsend we mentioned already. Scott Baldwin's going to Worcester, which we remote about. Leicester have signed Marco van Stanton, the back rower from the Bulls, which is a good pickup. Another South African's coming across.
Really? He was meant to be going to Ulster to replace Kurt Sear. So if Leicester have got him, that's...
Leicester are going to have 8 South Africans next year. Just there's so many South Africans in the Premiership next year. It's going to be nuts. I reckon you could field 2 kind of entire squads for a game with just South Africans in the Premiership.
Yeah, they could have like a little 4-way tournament with 2 teams in the Premiership plus that gold and green team that played in a warm-up.
Yes.
And it would still be worth watching. Ridiculous. And Nahimi Ndolo signed on for another year at Tigers, which is positive for them as he's been injured this year. So I hope he gets back on the field. Really quickly, because we've got 1 minute left. Six Nations back next weekend. Italy, Wales. Wales to win again?
Yes.
Yes.
Are we going to get a Doggeroo, Mailings, and are we going to get any changes from England? Looking like, obviously, Benno was the only one that was released, so which implies that he is going to make some changes. Are we going to make any changes, and are we going to win?
He'll move Farrell to 10. France and play Slade and Joseph. There
we go. France have got a good number of their COVID casualties back.
And Intermac.
Well, Vakatawa as well.
Oh.
So difficult to say that England will win, but they can. So
be nice to see Underhill back in the squad.
Yep,
which would be good.
Can we please get a Doggeroo versus Vakatawa? That'll be epic. France is going to win, and France is going to win by 20. And Eddie Jones is going to get fired. That's my bold prediction. Take it or leave it. Scotland, Ireland, after the mighty game of the weekend, which is London Irish Worcester. That's going to be a good game. That's probably
I reckon Scotland, if they can put that, will they have Ferguson back?
Don't know.
No, they won't.
How many banned?
I reckon
if they put ban, didn't he? Yes.
Yeah, he
might
back. No,
he's not back. If they put a heavier pack out, I reckon put some size in there.
Get Skinner in.
Bash up the Irish a bit. Get Skinner in. Yeah, I reckon they could win.
Yeah.
Give me Scotland.
I can see Scotland's defensive line speed putting a lot of pressure on Sexton. But similarly, I can see Henshaw and Ringrose doing a lot of damage because Scotland's midfield is not the best area of their squad.
Oh, can't wait. It's going to be good. I'm pleased we've got the Six Nations back. Right. As I say, if you don't follow us already, follow us on Instagram, subscribe, swing the bell, help us grow the podcast. Keep safe and enjoy the Six Nations and go watch some Super Rugby if you haven't already.
See ya.